Kpop Demon Hunters is a 2025 animated musical action comedy released on Netflix. In Korean, the title is shortened to Kdaehun, Kdaehun. What really grabs you first in this film is, of course, the music. The soundtrack's packed with all kinds of artists. You've got Teddy's the Black Label leading the music production and handling songs like How It's Done, Soda Pop, and Your Idol, which they wrote and composed. And then there's Lee, a former SM Entertainment trainee, composed Golden and even performed it herself. Beyond that, many viewers value the work not just for its visuals, but for how deeply it understands K-pop idols and Korean culture. Huntrix and Saja Boys are fictional groups that often feel more real than actual K-pop. This is an example of what scholars call hyperreality, where a copy can sometimes feel more powerful than the original. Experiences like the sing-along bus for the film OST or the drone show featuring Derpy and Susie turn the original content into exciting new ways for fans to engage. As director Maggie Gang points out, every group has certain archetypes, reminding us that K-pop isn't just about individual stars. It's also shaped by recurring patterns and symbols that guide how fans experience identity and performance. That authenticity resonates beyond the screen. Cultural goods from the National Museum of Korea is flying off the shelves, including tiger-themed designs, traditional hats, decorative notes, scarves and fans inspired by royal paintings, and even beach towers featuring royal motifs. So what exactly makes it feel so authentic? Let's follow their footsteps and find out. Huntrix niece. There's a scene where Huntrix and the Saja boys are competing to see who can bow the lowest. It's super extra and absolutely hilarious. It perfectly mimics the deep bows K-pop idols often do on stage. It's definitely a playful twist on K-pop idol culture, but especially greeting the public is a big deal in Korea. Of course, even greets with a cute hand heart like this. This is the natural way in an official setting. In another scene, the girls are sitting with both hands neatly placed on their laps. This posture is seen as polite, especially in formal settings. While people are more relaxed these days, it's still a mark of good manners. When they are running onto the stage to sing Golden, the manager shouts, "가자, 가자, 가자!" And Joey also yells, "가자, 가자, 가자!" Even in the English version, this line is kept in Korean, and the pronunciation is perfect. It literally means, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." In the film, you can hear bits of Korean not just in the dialogue, but in the song lyrics too. Spotting them while you watch can be a fun way to enjoy the movie. Small touches like this make the film feel even more authentic. And after defeating the Gwima, Huntrix goes to a public bathhouse. In the late 1980s, saunas were added, and from the late 1990s, 찜질방 spread rapidly across the country. Now, 찜질방 is more than just a place to wash. They have grown into spaces for rest, fun, and even overnight stays, loved by people of all ages. Joy wear towels folded into sheep head shapes called 양머리, which were especially popular in the early 2010s. Look at the man. He is holding a green item that's 대수건 or scrubbing towel used to remove dead skin. They come in many shapes and colors, so picking one can be surprisingly fun. What about Saja boys? Let's talk about the Saja boys. The Saja boys are basically Grim Reapers, or 저승 사자, which literally means Death's Word Messenger. In Korean folklore, they guide souls to the afterlife. Here's a little secret. They are not actually 5. Korean reapers traditionally come in 3. So why does the Saja boys have 5? Can you figure it out? Interestingly, in Korean, Saja also means lion. So the Saja boys use a lion as their logo. It's a clever double meaning, Grim Reapers leading the dead, and the lions symbolizing power and justice. Stories like this are full of these little touches, and spotting them is part of the fun. Check out Jinu's hat called gat. It's a classic hat worn by men during the Joseon dynasty. It was mainly used for daily outings. But there were also so many kinds of hats for relaxing at home, for semi-formal occasions, and for entering the palace to meet the king. But look closely, the hats are actually see-through. That's because they were made from horse hair, not fabric or leather. And can you see his hairstyle? It's called 상투. 상투 is a top knot tied up to fit the big hat perfectly. If you look at ancient sculptures or murals from thousands of years ago, you can see people wearing the same hairstyle, 상투 and gat. So in the early 20th century, missionaries and travelers who visited Korea often mentioned it as the land of hats. Derpy and Susie. Now let's meet the real stars, Derpy and Susie. They act as cute messengers between Lumi and Jinu. Jinu even texts Lumi, 만날래? Which means, wanna meet? Simple but sweet. Tiger Derpy's name comes from his goofy, dazed look, and Magpie Susie's name comes from the slang suspicious, with a cute nickname ending C. I think director Maggie Gang's idea probably comes from the interpretations of these kinds of paintings. The pine bark resembles a dragon's scales. Therefore, the pine tree symbolizes the king, and the tiger represents the warrior who protects the king. Look at the tiger. It was drawn with every strand of fur visible, making it look like a strong guardian. So in Joseon Dynasty, military officers wear robes decorated with brave tiger badges. However, during the 19th century people's uprisings, king and his military officers attacked the people. Later, anonymous folk paintings called minhwa appeared. In those paintings, the tiger is often portrayed as clumsy or silly, while the magpie represents the people or the sovereign, scolding and teasing the tiger. Ultimately, the magpie and tiger painting, 까치 호랑이 그림, was a satire capturing the spirit of its time. On the other hand, there is another interpretation. The regions from Siberia, the Lake Baikal, eastern and northern Manchuria, to the Korean peninsula are largely forest. In Korea, where about 70% of the land is covered by forests, mountain spirit worship developed. The mountain god protected the peace and stability of the village. Over time, tigers, once a real threat to humans, became to be seen as guardians of the forest and mountain god. And people believed that the tiger paintings on gates during the New Year drove away evil spirits. Over time, these tigers became friendlier, and by the 17th century they appeared with the magpies in popular paintings, since hearing the magpie's call meant a welcome guest or good news. At the same time, the tiger, the magpie, and the mountain god were depicted together as symbols of blessings for people. This made the tiger even more charming, and it's portrayed more like a character than a real animal. The first time Derpy appears, the scene where he keeps knocking over a flower pot made people laugh, not because he's foolish, but because he's friendly. So still Susie watches him with its suspicious 3 eyes, but I cannot hide the feelings that turn toward Duffy. Koreans have lots of fun sayings about magpies. 까치집 means magpie's nest, but also messy hair. 까치발 means tiptoeing on your toes. 까치밥 refers to persimmons left for birds to eat in winter. I really love this story. People say Susie's eyes resemble Samsung phone camera, and they decorate their phones with its image. It's a fascinating transformation. Samsung even teamed up with the Kpop Demon Hunters for a special promotion. Aren't you curious what happened to Durfee and Susie after Jinwoo disappeared? Director Maggie Gang said they are now living with the Huntrix, and if you look closely, you will spot Durfee's emblem on Joy's hoodie. And I want to share one last story. Before this film's release, a playful baby tiger chasing butterflies appeared on a media art billboard in the heart of Seoul. The tiger's name is Suho, which carries the meaning of guardian of a peaceful day, just as its ancestors have done through the ages. Korean Bites and Classics. Look at the table. It's loaded with some of Korea's most iconic street food and snacks. From left to right, 어묵, 호떡, 김밥, 순대, and 라면. 어묵 is a fish cake served in warm broth. 호떡 is a sweet pancake filled with brown sugar, nuts, and cinnamon, a winter favorite. Kimbap is a rice roll wrapped in seaweed with various fillings. Oh no. No matter how hungry you are, make sure to cut it before eating. But honestly, sometimes eating them whole can be fun. Sundae is a Korean-style sausage. Ramen is instant noodles in mild or spicy broth. 불닭볶음면 is extremely spicy, and if the package says 핵, meaning nuclear, it's basically a dare. Some people even crush the noodles, sprinkle seasoning on the top, and eat it as a crunchy snack. And of course, there's naengmyeon, cold noodles in chilled broth, perfect for summer. You can choose between broth-based 물 냉면 and spice-mixed 비빔 냉면. But it's too bad 떡볶이 didn't make it onto this table. It's one of the classic. The snack Joy is eating, it's 새우깡. 새우 means shrimp, but don't bother looking for shrimp. There isn't any. Now here's something interesting. Even though they are on an airplane and there is a couch, but they are eating snacks on the floor. It's such a uniquely Korean moment. Korea has a traditional floor heating system called ondol, so people take off their shoes indoors and often sit or lie on the warm floor. Here's another food scene. There are many kinds of 국밥 depending on the ingredients. It's hard to tell you the exact dish, but they are eating one type of 국밥. And look closely at Mira's chopsticks. They are resting on a paper napkin. In some restaurants, including 국밥 restaurant, it's considered polite to keep your chopsticks and spoon clean by placing them on a napkin. But there are different ways to set utensils depending on the food. Of course, no Korean meal is complete without kimchi. For 국밥, people usually eat it with the radish kimchi, 깍두기. We choose kimchi that goes well with each meal. With all these details, Kpop Demon Hunters doesn't just reference Korean culture, it lives it. That's what makes it feel so real. Seoul's must-see spots. Let's dive into some Korean cultural elements featured in the film's backgrounds. Rumi and Jinwoo first connected while walking along the Naksan fortress wall, Naksan Sansong. It was part of the old eastern defense line of Seoul. Now, they are in the Bukchon Hanok village with the iconic Seoul Tower visible in the distance. Seoul Tower offers a city view and is a must-see spot. In the film, the barrier called Honmun starts right here. Bukchon was a high-class residential area for nobles and officials during the Joseon dynasty. Today it's a popular tourist spot but struggles with the over-tourism. Actually, most of its houses were built in the early 20th century. So for truly traditional architecture, you should visit the nearby palaces. Here's a tip. When you visit palaces, temples, or older houses, look out for goblin, 도깨비 roof tiles. Goblin faces meant to scare away evil spirits and protect the home. Wow, are you scared? Do you remember the scary airplane captain? Ironically, he looks just like the goblin that's supposed to keep people safe. Korea's must-see royal symbol. Rumi is now singing Golden on stage. Look at the painting. And you can also see the painting behind her throne. This painting, called 1월 오봉도, comes from Joseon Dynasty palaces. The red sun represents the king and the white moon represents the queen, symbolizing harmony between light and dark. The 5 mountain peaks stand for the 5 blessings. while the sky, earth, water, and 4 pine trees represent the universe. Together, these elements express eternal vitality. In the film, the girls' outfits show variations of these traditional patterns, like clouds, waves, and mountain peaks. Timeless beauty. Rumi and Genus, a symbol of love, is knot bracelet. It's called 매듭 팔찌 in Korean. 매듭 is a traditional craft of a decorative knot. This knot was adapted into Hunter's logo and even inspired the light sticks fans wave. These light sticks called 응원봉, literally cheering sticks. They have recently become a part of a protest, creating a new cultural trend. Decorative knots are also common in traditional Korean accessories like 놀이개. 놀이개 is a decoration and accessory worn with a hanbok. So when wearing hanbok, avoid necklaces or earrings, as they clash with the white collar and 놀이개. You can see the knots on Huntrix outfits, and even in Blackpink's modern evolved versions on hanbok. Can you spot where? Here, 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 and here. Jinu's mother and sister wear hanbok. The textile and the design changes depending on the situation and the purpose. For example, this style was worn in the palace, and this style was worn outside. Can you see the difference? Yes, the palace style features a longer jacket. Are you curious about their makeup? Let me tell you a story. In the middle 18th century, Princess Hwahyop, King Yeongjo's seventh daughter, was buried with delicate cosmetics. Sadly, she died of measles when she was just 19 years old. Recently, her cosmetics have been faithfully recreated and even available for purchase. Korea's spiritual performance. This is Rumi's mother's grave. It's called 무덤. Celine, a former hunter and shaman descendant, raised Rumi. Most Koreans today are cremated, but burial was the traditional practice. Early tombs started as dolmen. It's called 고인돌. Of the 60,000 dolmens found worldwide, about 40,000 are located on the Korean peninsula. Then pyramid-shaped tombs, later covered with soil on plains, and moved to mountains. This royal tombs was built on a sunny hillside in the mountains surrounded by pine trees. This is an ideal Korean burial site. Do you remember the tree where hunters received their mission from Master Celine? And also under this tree, Rumi poured out her heart to Celine, struggling with her identity. The Jelkova tree, known in Korean as Neti Namu, has been more than just a tree. In all the villages, Jelkovas were planted at the gate or in the center. They watched over the community. People gathered in their shade to rest, to talk, to hold rituals. The Jelkova carried a mythical weight, like Yggdrasil, the world tree of Norse myth. In the Korean founding myth, the Son of Heaven descended to the human world, bearing the sacred philosophy of 홍익 인간, which aims to broadly benefit the human world. And where did he arrive? Beneath the sacred tree, 신단수. His son, Dangun, was born either from his union with a bear or from his granddaughter's marriage to the spirit of the tree. Dangun founded Gojoseon, the first Korean kingdom, in 2333 BC. Dangun became the first ancestor of the Korean people. Some say the sacred tree was a birch, an oak, or a yew. But more than a species, it was a world tree. The tradition continued, and in most cases the Jelkova tree took on this role. These trees served as guardian for the villages, keeping the same sense of sacredness and connection through the centuries. However, as life got more complicated, people couldn't just rely on trees alone. In the film, Rumi, who's having trouble with her voice, goes to see a traditional doctor. He might not be a good doctor, but when he says, "To treat a part, you have to understand the whole," it really captures the essence of traditional medicine, looking at the body as a whole and treating each person according to their own constitution. Traditional medical hospitals are still visited by many people to treat their illnesses and restore their energy. However, even so, people did not stop looking for a connection with the heavens. In this film, the link between the K-pop girls and the demon hunters is the mudang. Mudang are Korean shamans, part of an ancient spiritual tradition that spread across a vast region, from the Himalayas to Siberia, Central Asia, Kamchatka Peninsula, and the Korean Peninsula. There are two types of mudang. The one is spirit possession shamans, and the other is hereditary shamans. Female shamans are mudang, males are baksu mudang, but the role mostly passed through women. As I mentioned earlier about the black hats in the old murals, the history of the hat is long. So mudang wear the hat gat. They also have certain ritual tools. In the painting, she is holding a shaman's fan, 부채, and a bell, 방울. The fan bears images of the god, while the sound of the bell carries the voices and actions of the god. Through these sounds, the shaman calls and speaks with the divine, and everyone present can be included. Look at this bell. A set of 99 bells is used by the master shaman. Ritual sword, shinkal, come in many types and are used for different purposes, but they generally remove evil spirits and purify spaces. They also symbolize the shaman's authority. Now let's talk about the process of the ritual, 굿. At the start of the ceremony, shamans call on God to guide and bless the ritual. Through music and dance, the shamans enter a state of ecstasy and become a vessel for a god.
팔도명산에다 산신님들 하나 받으시고 본향본산에 산신님들 하나 받으시고 이 부군으로 다 서울을 안양한다 이렇게 불악산이와 삼각산으로 하나 받으시고 전하궁의 삼이삼처 지하궁의 이시팔송.
In this state, they perform the ritual good, helping the spirits release their sorrow and comforting grieving families. The ritual concludes by guiding the spirits peacefully out of this world. Here, I'd like to briefly talk about the difference between Western and Korean demons. The demon was originally a being that moved between good and evil, serving as a mediator connecting heaven and earth. After the appearance of Jesus as the mediator between humans and God, the demon became viewed as an evil spirit. Today, the demon is understood as a being carrying existential anxiety. However, in Korea, demons are not simply evil. They are restless spirits called 귀신 who wander because of misfortune, disaster, disease, or injustice, unable to move on to the afterlife. So you can empathize with Jinwoo, who became evil spirit by circumstances beyond his control. Because of this, in this film, demons symbolize inner anxieties, emotional wounds, and social conflicts in this real world. Alright, now returning to the story of the shamanic ritual, music and dance play a vital role in bringing together what has been divided by rules and etiquette, while also transforming and purifying desire. The director Maggie Gang imagined the ritual good as the very first concert. Huntrix are spiritual guardians, fighting darkness through song and dance. I think this is a fresh, cool idea. To say a bit more about the shaman's dance, traditional dances originating from good rituals have been passed down through generations, evolving into Gommu, the sword dance. Seungmu, a monk's dance that embodies the circle of life. 살풀이춤, which transforms sorrow into joy and ecstatic spirit, expressing complex human emotions. In the past, Korean shamans, Mudang, communicated with the spirits through rituals, comforting both the departed and the living, and helping to solve community problems. Today, their traditional role has disappeared, and only a few focus on counseling or cultural experiences. Unlike Mudang, fortune tellers predict fortunes as a commercial service, and their activities are quite different. Finally, let's talk about Honmun, which literally soul gate. Hon means soul, Mun means door. It seems the director made up this word. For generations, music has powered this gate. Hunters carry on the tradition. They breathe life into this gate through their soulful performances. However, Guima says, the Honmun is gone. But Lumi answers, it is, so we can make a new one. And then she sings the final song, what it sounds like. The scars are part of me, darkness and harmony, my voice without the lies. This is what it sounds like. 상처는 나의 일부, 어둠 그리고 조화, 거짓 없는 내 목소리, 여기에 울려 퍼져. Finally, Guima vanished. Rumi is a two-sided being who carries both divine and demonic spirits within her. Jinwoo and the people gathered at the concert are no exception. Every human carries both good and evil. The only difference lies in the portion each one holds. As a result, by revealing her patterns, Rumi learns to love herself, and Jinwoo's sacrifice to save her helps him heal from family wounds. Together, they accept themselves and discover who they truly are. And in the song, the subject shifts from I to we. I try to fix it, I try to fight it, becomes we are not heroes, we are still survivors. In the last scene, Huntress create a new home moon, this time rainbow colored. It might be something new, or a restoration of what it was always meant to be. So this film isn't about conquering others or twisted desires. It's a story about creating narratives of overcoming through accepting and respecting yourself just as you are. Hope you enjoyed this cultural journey.